Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 11th, and because of a malfunction on the recording of the meeting of the Emergency Preparedness Committee of the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council that was held on June 6th, 2024, I'm recording again that meeting, so it's available for the electronic record. Proceeding forward with that meeting housekeeping notes were walked through with the idea that there was no need for a roll call because the attendance was being auto recorded. Meet and greet was suspended for the purposes of the fact of it being an online meeting. The recording was indeed verified that it was operating, and call to order was then brought forward. Approval of agenda is offered. Was A motion was put forward, and it was by Randy Knippel, and it was seconded by Brian Huberty. No one was opposed, as was the case with the approval of the last meeting minutes as posted to the YouTube channel. Updates, issues, and good efforts. It was pointed out that dogs are now wearing sweaters when leaning out windows. Our upcoming meetings and events, reminder that the calendar is in fact out there that posts everything that's going on that we have visibility on. And I especially wanted to point out that the event taking place online, driven primarily by the individuals in the underground utility mapping community in Canada, taking place on June 25th through the 26th, that being the Subsurface Utility Mapping Strategy Forum. It's dedicated to the memory of an individual that started with one of our project teams here with the Emergency Preparedness Committee, that being Dr. Jeff Zeiss, who passed away approximately 2 years ago. And his guidance and input to our efforts here in Minnesota were critical to things getting underway. So Bob Esquez will be speaking at that event, one of the participants of our Emergency Preparedness Committee Underground Utility Mapping Project team. So I invite you to tune in. The event is free, and it is, as indicated there, taking place in the latter part of June. Moving on to the discussion on people. Here's what happens to you when you go from being a hardworking employee of the city of St. Paul and you get to retire. You go from that very stern-looking individual into somebody like this who's wearing a banner that says retired, not expired, and glasses that say no work. So congratulations to Bob on his retirement on April 30th. We also have another similar individual, hardworking GIS type, the Dakota County GIS manager, Randy Knippel, who has that fascination with the red stapler as offered on the show of Office Space, or the movie of Office Space. So congratulations, Randy, on your retirement. And we're left with one to go with Barb Cedarberg, the current Chief Operating Officer of Gopher State One Call, has her retirement slated for June 30th, but apparently they're holding on to her for dear life because she is the center of all knowledge over there. So party and the rest of it to be determined. Others that are wandering in and out the door, other points of note. Tim Lesh has just arrived over at the Minnesota DNR to lead the effort of mapping the underground infrastructure of DNR's land. So we look forward to the opportunity of perhaps working with Tim with the project team that was already established here at the EPC. Also arriving, Mike Sovereign has been hired over at Share Geo to try to bring life into the emergency location marker effort. So we're looking forward to seeing what sort of efforts that Mike is able to put forward in a part-time capacity while he's studying to become a statistical analyst. So, an exciting career ahead for him. And hopefully, as he's moving forward with that job, he can help us promote U.S. National Grid and the marking system for it. Departing, Sandy Stroud over at the Minnesota State 911 program has had made a decision to move to Virginia Beach and has since moved on from the program here in Minnesota and subsequently been appointed as the Director of Public Safety with One Spatial USA. Mapping schools in Minnesota. Thank you. I'd like to point out that Matt Goodman provided us with the insight that this particular piece of legislation, in fact, passed, and it provides we have an older version of it posted here. It is my understanding, as it went to final vote, they actually upped the amount for the regions to receive funding to support this effort to map schools was bumped up to $7 million. So an opportunity to be able to put forward an effort in the state of Minnesota, which would help responders on calls to schools in the state. Also put forward, there were a number of cosmetic changes made to the Minnesota's one call bill. Here you see the updates that went into this particular bill that are posted here on the right-hand side. I think that the primary point of consideration is there are further changes anticipated as this bill goes forward in the years ahead with the number of GIS related developments that are taking place. Some of the language in the bill is currently pretty loose, and I would look forward, or I should say, you should look forward to seeing some of that language tightened up, and as a result of that, there being greater demand on fidelity of data and things of that nature. I believe that takes care of what we've got for updates, unless there's something from the floor, and at which point nothing was brought forward. That moves us on to issues, and the first item that we would bring up there is that the Minnesota Advisory Council on Infrastructure, in fact, was signed off as part of the tax omnibus bill, which was functionally attached to Bill 5247. But unfortunately, in all the entities that are named as being important to be a participant on this council, there was no indication of the need for geospatial expertise, which ironically is the core of being able to have full understanding of the interrelationships of infrastructure, because geospatial infrastructure brings meaning to physical infrastructure. Everything is somewhere. Additionally, the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council's EPC priorities for 2024, as we've discussed before, items 2 and 3 on the list for what they're expecting or looking for out of the EPC this year. Those 2 items here in the bottom are pretty much self-running things at this point. So our overall focus this year is on the critical infrastructure data workflow. And that project is highly important from the standpoint of trying to relieve at a local level these continuous demands on them to provide data to a variety of organizations. And by what we've tried to show here with this diagram is that we have this history of everybody from federal agencies to state agencies to commercial entities going around the State Geospatial Information Office and trying to acquire data acquiring it at different times, and there's a variety of understandings of what data sets are accurate and up to date. And as a result of that, the idea of this effort will be that we will work within that project team that belongs to the Emergency Preparedness Committee to try to create processes by which local data can flow to the Geospatial Information Office. And then another work group, the Can Do work group over here on this side, can be working to implement the availability of that data so that we resolve this problem of overreach down to the local level. If you would be interested in joining that effort, the next meeting of it was posted for for Monday, June 10th at 1 p.m. Stacy Stark chairs that. And once again, you can always find information about this meeting group on the EPC calendar on our website. Looks like somebody is pretty aggressive here at hooking up a moose. I'm not sure that's a real deal. It looks pretty good to me, but as it's been pointed out, it is in fact PowerPointed in. But hey, you got to give somebody credit for trying. Important item to bring forward on good efforts. The effort underway with our underground utilities mapping project team actually was a request was put forward by the U.S. Government Accountability Office. They came looking for a brief on that effort because it stands as a potential way forward for new technology that they hadn't considered in an effort where they were looking at underground gathering lines for oil and gas wells and the potential of those lines being abandoned and posing a threat in the energy states. So they were interested in how we were collaboratively pulling data together, and were thinking about that perhaps as a model that might work to connect together different parts of government, since these gathering lines are owned on a variety of different department and agencies of the federal government. We have new representative, GIS representative to the Minnesota Emergency Management, the Metropolitan Emergency Management folks, and we are seeing the torch passed from Randy Knipple in Dakota County over to Anoka County, and Britta Maddox has offered to pick up the torch and run with it. She is not a hardcore GIS type like some of the folks that are on this call. And so I've made it known to Britta that if she runs into issues that are of the nature that she needs support, that us as a group are behind her, and I will coordinate what needs to be done to make sure she gets the support she needs. So thank you very much, Britta, for taking on that responsibility. It's an important one to keep that outreach and connection going with this emergency management association. So thank you. What did I forget? Are there other victories or defeats out there? And no one brought forward an additional item at this point. This takes us down to project team reports. Okay, so here's a reminder who's on the leadership team. You see them listed up there at the top. The next time the leadership is going to be getting together will be Thursday, September 5th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. If you'd like to attend, we always encourage individuals that are interested in what the leadership team is talking about. Come on in, sit down with us, get a sense of how we're steering things. So there's the next meeting date. And I think the important thing for today that I wanted to bring up is where we are with the outreach effort that has been largely led by that leadership team. Over here on the left-hand side, you see where we are with the use of our website and the kind of outreach that's being created with it. As you can see here, the reports for 2024 are well on their way to exceeding what has occurred in the year 2023. Similarly, our YouTube channel currently has 64 subscribers and more than 6,800 views on it, which puts it up um, closer to the top of any of the other geospatial organizations here in the state, to include the University of Minnesota. So that's an encouraging thing to see that the message we are doing our best to deliver is being um, thought of and reviewed by others. Over here, you can see where we are for attendance, a good trend in the direction of a nice level of attendance for our online meetings. And so you see there is September, December, and then most recently here in April, what the numbers look like. So we're encouraged to see that. And thank you all for attending. And we hope you'll encourage others to participate in the effort going forward. Over to critical infrastructure assessment. Stacy Stark walked through where we are for the rough plan for what that project team sees as its initial steps to try to get things going. First, it wants to identify one data set to use as a proof of concept for a process development. And Stacy's thinking that initially would start out in the fire station realm. Second step would be to create a straw man document to describe the process for creating and vetting that data set. Move that one data set through the process to discover issues. Initial assumption would be a small group develops a data set, or I should say vets a data set that might already be out there. The critical infrastructure assessment project team reviews and approves that data set. A data set is sent to a responsible Minnesota government department agency for sign off, and the data set is then published to the Minnesota Geospatial Commons as state endorsed. Based on lessons learned from that first data set, submit a process document to the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council for approval as a standard process. Expect significant changes to the standard over time. The subsequent update on that, a very good meeting was held on June 10th, and Stacy's document continues to be refined, adjusted, and additional thoughts being added to it. If you would like to contribute some thinking to how that's being developed, by all means, I would encourage you to reach out to Stacy and offer your ideas. Once again, a review of when that meeting took place on June 10th. Stacy Stark, there's her contact information. Moving on to the underground utilities mapping project team. Barb Cedarberg, as the chief operating officer of Gopher State One Call, is leading that effort, but has her hands full with that effort alone. And so I am here to brief what has gone on with that group. I think the easiest way to think about developments within that particular group is that the development of software is not the only thing going on. And thus, back to the analogy of swimming pool lanes, not only does there need to be the software that is going to make that project work, but there needs to be documentation that goes with it. And then there needs to be in place some sort of legal agreements that will allow individuals to participate in eventually the sharing of data or participating in the testing phases, whatever needs to occur. So I rated these items at more or less what we know to be their level of development. The actual software development is now approximately at about 74%. The documentation, roughly 50%. The legal agreements, even though they already all exist, they've been drafted and are ready to go because they've never been stress tested. I have them listed here at 35%. The website is pending, trying to get to that final 100% before the rest of this stuff. Currently sitting about 70%. informational brochures to help people understand what the concept is and how it works, are well under development, and we're looking to also release a white paper to describe the process that we went through to move this process forward of technology that has needed an update in the underground utility community for the better part of 50 years. The actual implementation of it has been built as indicated here with the first line, a mobile first design approach, which allows it to be used in the field to have a better idea what's under your foot. Access through the dig ticket link, and it augments the 811 process. It doesn't replace what has been put in, been mandated, I should say, by the legislature on how to move through the requirement to ask for an area to be marked, and for folks to come out and take a look at it, indicate where things are buried, and move forward on that thought. Our proof of concept was completed in October of 2022 and currently underway as a statewide beta test. Basically, they're testing to see if the expansion of capabilities can withstand the kind of demand that will be placed on it from going from a city-sized area to a county and then eventually to statewide implementation. We believe this project is on track for delivery in the first quarter of 2025. Currently, what's under the element that's being tested right now is the ability to connect to the system. And so Fusion View sits as a piece of middleware software that allows, on the one side, the data users to be able to see what the data providers have to offer. This is the list of the cities that are currently involved. And over here, you see One Call Concepts, Pelican Corp, and WSB Engineering as being entities that will eventually use the data. One Call Concepts in Minnesota delivers the actual implementation of the call before you dig service on behalf of Gopher State One Call. And what's exciting there is the fact that the implementation here in Minnesota will also be, by the way it's being integrated into One Call Concept software, become almost immediately available in 17 other states. Pelican Corporation is also involved. They have 3 states, 2 provinces in Canada, and a heavy international component. And WSB Engineering is testing the ability to bring into their engineering processes data that might be made available. If you have interest in learning more, here are some places that are potentially available to you. The MGAC EPC's YouTube that I previously mentioned. There's a Common Ground Alliance Next Practices document that's out there that explains this whole process. If you Google that, it'll bring up a page, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll find the piece on Minnesota. And finally, as I indicated also previously, the Fusion View website is close to getting to the place where it needs to be. If you're interested in tuning in and finding out more about this group, the next meeting of it is on Thursday, June 13th at 1 p.m. Central Time. And I keep beating the dead horse here, but you can always find information about when that group meets on the EPC calendar. Moving along, the next section was a discussion on the U.S. National Grid effort. And during that discussion, Randy Knipple offered some insights on developments that are taking place at the U.S. National Grid Institute. Here you see a list of the projects that are currently being worked on, and it's anticipated all 10 of these priorities will be finished by the end of the year. And after that, we anticipate that the Institute will turn its attention to being a more active voice in trying to promote the use of U.S. National Grid and getting others involved. So you can look at this list and see that there is a tremendous amount of work here. And if you're wondering why is that, that people would be volunteering to do this kind of work, and the extent of what is listed on that list, as you can see, is quite substantial. Well, here's the answer. Um, this particular individual, a beautiful young lady from the Southwest of the United States, was found dead a month after calling 911 with her exact coordinates. And I can show you dozens of instances where something of this similar nature has taken place because the response community or the call center has at one point confused the three different versions of latitude, longitude, and sent responders to the completely wrong location. And in this day and age, with the kind of level of technology that's out there, there is no excuse for this sort of thing taking place. So that's the mantra that's over at the U.S. National Grid Institute and everybody that's working on the projects that are associated with it. And I would encourage you, just like I have with the other two project teams, to think about joining in and providing your services and thoughts to this effort. So next meeting of it is going to be June 19th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. There is a pending correction to that date. As it turns out, yours truly was not tuned in as no longer being a federal or state employee as to the sensitivity to that date. And we'll be looking to adjust it to something more appropriate away from that federally and state recognized holiday. In case you tune in, one of the discussion items that will be brought forward within the open forum is, why is the U.S. National Grid better geospatial location system than what three words? Google Plus codes and similar. On to old business and new business. Brought forward in old business, nothing was offered. Brought forward in new business, nothing was offered. And that took us down to comments, announcements, other business, and then adjourn. For the comments, there was nothing offered, and we moved on to honoring the volunteer of the quarter, who for second quarter of 2024, the award was given to Matt Goodman, the GIS principal at St. Louis County Sheriff's Office. Matt's citation reads as follows. For more than a decade, Matt Goodman has worked for the St. Louis County, Minnesota Sheriff's Office as a 911 GIS specialist and then as its GIS principal. From this frontline viewpoint, Matt has worked diligently to expand his expertise, share his knowledge with others, and champion better ways of doing business across the state's emergency services sector. Some of his efforts have included participating in the EPC and its critical infrastructure assessment project team for the past 4 years, representing the EPC on the National States Geographic Information Council's Geospatial Preparedness Committee, serving for 9+ years on Minnesota SECB Next Generation 911 GIS Standards Work Group, and participating for 10 years as the GIS representative on the Minnesota Statewide Emergency Communications Board Next Generation 911 Committee. In addition to his volunteer service with TEMNOD and GIS Corps, Matt is well known for his inventive use of GIS for emergency planning, including his Greenwood Fire app, which was featured in GovTech magazine, and his recent efforts to help his county's residents through the release of an online emergency evacuation planning map. A truly exemplary member of Minnesota's emergency services sector and GIS community, Matt Goodman is the EPC's Volunteer of the Quarter for second quarter of 2024. Congratulations to Matt. Thank you so much for your hard work. It's greatly appreciated. That leads us to talking about when the next EPC meeting will be taking place. It will be on Thursday, September 12th at 2 p.m. Central Time, online, and the topic to be determined. If you have any ideas, please float them by me. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, a motion to adjourn was brought forward. It was once again motion made by Randy Knipple and seconded by Brian Huberty. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Took us down to the presentation for today, being from air quality to blizzards to severe thunderstorms, how Minnesota Pollution Control Agency meteorologists leverage GIS technologies to observe, analyze, and communicate threats. That would be Daniel Dix, the Continuity of Operations Coordinator, meteorologist, and Safety and Emergency Management Section, and Matt Tarleson, meteorologist, Risk Evaluation and Air Modeling Unit, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And with that, I turn the presentation feature over to Daniel and Matt. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. We're really looking forward to your presentation. Thank you very much.